The story of the Calgary Tower begins and ultimately ends with the Canadian Pacific Railway. By 1882, the Canadian Pacific had reached Calgary, and when they drove home the last spike just outside of Revelstoke in November of 1885, Calgary was the midway point between Vancouver and Winnipeg, which were the two biggest terminals that the Canadian Pacific had west of Montreal. In 1907, the Canadian Pacific would construct a brand new station, and it would open the following year. Now, they would add an east and a west wing to the station to expand in 1910, which would lay the foundation for the construction of Calgary's first Grand Railway Hotel, the Palliser, which would open in 1914. And I did a full video on the Palliser last year, and it is still, without a doubt, one of the most gorgeous hotels that I have ever stayed in. Now, fast forward to the 1960s. World War I, the Great Depression, and World War II had taken a bit of a hit on passenger service. But Canada was approaching its centennial, and across the prairies, the railway giants were about to begin a decade-long pissing contest. It would start in Edmonton, with the Canadian National Railway demolishing their downtown station to build the original CN Tower right here that opened in 1966 at a cost of $10.5 million. And not to be outdone, the Canadian Pacific would partner with Husky Oil to make a statement of their own, a new tower right here at their headquarters in Calgary. And construction would begin in February of 1967, and in just 16 months, the tower was complete. Opening in June of 1968 at a cost of $3.5 million, towering 191 meters above the skyline, and it was the tallest structure in the city by far, and the new symbol for Calgary for the next 100 years to come. And more importantly, it was double the height of Canadian National's tower that they had opened up in Edmonton. But this new Canadian Pacific Tower would be named the Husky Tower. Now, the original Calgary passenger station would stand for one more year, but would ultimately meet the wrecking ball in 1969 to make way for other developments, which is a real shame. In Canada, we have a theme of demolishing our beautiful history, but just imagine if this station still stood today. The tower itself would be renamed only a few years after opening in 1971 to the Calgary Tower. And for nearly 2 decades, the basement level, which was called Tower Center, would take over the responsibility of serving passengers on all of the long-distance Canadian Pacific and later Via Rail trains. But that all ended in January of 1990 when the Canadian government cut all service to Calgary and the last passenger train departed. Although it does break my heart a little bit, actually quite a lot, that I cannot take a train from Winnipeg into Calgary or Vancouver to Calgary through the Rockies, the Tower Center station is still preserved in the basement, quietly awaiting for the day that passenger rail travel returns to Calgary and Canada's 4th largest city. The tower itself has also had plenty of its own iconic moments, like in 1988 during the Calgary Winter Olympics, where it held the title for the world's tallest Olympic torch, with a natural gas burning cauldron installed on top of it. And that brings us to my experience here in 2025, inside one of the best kept secrets, not just in Calgary, but Canada-wide. I had arrived to Calgary following an amazing trip through the Canadian Rockies over the past week, and the hotel that I'd be staying at for the next 2 days was the Palliser, the same Grand Railway Hotel that I'd mentioned earlier, which it is beyond gorgeous on the interior, and even if you're not staying at the hotel, it's worth stepping inside just to appreciate the century-old craftsmanship, but more importantly, it's also located next door to the tower. So the next morning, I would head out of the hotel and into the tower, where I would grab my ticket to the top of Calgary. So there's no window anywhere, but what they've done instead is they've replaced it with drone shots. So this is what you would see coming up this way and this way. Pretty cool if you ask me. And from the observation deck, this is what you'll see. From the west, the first thing that you'll notice, or at least I do anyway, is the Palliser Hotel. It's just one of those buildings that I just can't get enough of, and I have a little bit of a crush on. And off in the distance is the Canadian Rockies, Banff, Lake Louise, and more, just on the other side of them. Facing east is special. because front and center are the train tracks that the Canadian Pacific freight trains follow today, and the passenger trains from 1969 until January of 1990 did as well after departing the tower station below. They leave Calgary, rolling through Medicine Hat, Moose Jaw, and Regina, before pulling into Winnipeg at the Canadian Pacific station on Higgins and Main 24 hours after leaving Calgary. And although only freight trains pass along the tower today and its former station, I don't have any video of it, but I can confirm that the station still stands in the basement of the tower and has been kept in pristine condition by the city of Calgary since that last train left in 1990, all in preparation for the day in which passenger trains finally make their return to Calgary,